Whether it's film, TV, or theater, Australian actor Hamish Briggs has experienced it all. He is now the star of the new Christian film MindReader, and today we have the privilege of having him on the show to talk about the film. Hamish, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Carynn.
Awesome. So before we talk about the film and share the trailer and everything, I just wanted to know more about you. And so our audience would like to know as well, how long have you been in the film industry?
About 15 years.
Really?
Wanted to be in it for about 30 years.
Really? Oh, wow.
But then after school, went to acting school and in Australia and never looked back.
Okay, so you went to acting school in Australia?
Yes.
Which one did you go to?
It's called Actors Centre Australia, in case there was any confusion.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you said you've been wanting to do this for 30 years, though.
Yes. When I was about, I feel very blessed to have always known what I wanted to do. There was never any doubt in my mind what I wanted to do when I grew up. And when I was about 5 years old, I wanted to be an archaeologist. Desperately wanted to be an archaeologist. And then at about 7 years old, I wanted to be a spy. And then at about 9 years old, I realized, no, I don't. I want to be Indiana Jones and James Bond. I want to be an actor. And I found that approaching life as an actor means I get to kind of try on everything.
Yeah, that's so true. The different characters, the different backgrounds. That's a really good way to put it. I haven't really heard an actor say, like, acting is their way of kind of like living these different kind of lives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Out of all the roles you've played, what's been kind of your favorite role?
Whew. Sheesh. I love Shakespeare, and I did a lot of Shakespeare back in Australia on stage, and there's just something about the density of the subject matter and the text that you can endlessly mine Shakespearean scripts and always find more in a different angle. And I know that might sound trite for an actor to say Shakespeare, but it's the truth.
Yeah, okay. Because you've also done theater. So what did you kind of get into first, screen acting or stage acting?
Stage acting, because that was what was available to me through school, and then in acting school, primarily it was focused on stage. And they're very different. You know, I love them both. They say that stage is an actor's medium, screen is a director's medium. Right now, I think I prefer film in general, but I love them both.
Yeah, they're both really powerful, however you're, telling the story. But you also direct and write as well. So how did that kind of combine with your acting ability?
Well, it's like you said, they're both acting on stage and film are really powerful for telling the story. Telling stories is my passion. And when I'm not acting, I'm writing or directing or producing or thinking about a new story. And I just love telling stories because I think stories can be so impactful, and that's how I think that if I'm ever going to change the world or make the world a better place, it's going to be through telling stories, and that's what draws me to it.
Yeah, and definitely even in MindReader, we're not going to give away, obviously, what's in the film, but the power of telling stories and, even how, like, Jesus told parables and storytelling, from my experience, it can reach people's minds and hearts in ways that just regular words and conversations can't. And obviously, like, body language has something to do with that and all kinds of things. But I think, I definitely understand what you're saying. And other filmmakers I've met, they're passionate about film and storytelling. That's really it for them, the storytelling aspect. And I think being in the entertainment industry, there's so many different motives and pursuits. Like, a lot of people are pursuing fame or to fill a void or some sort of gap in their soul. But, like, I feel like those who really thrive in it, they really love it. They're passionate about it, and they want to impact other people through storytelling. So I've already had the privilege of seeing MindReader, and by the way, you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
So I think we're just gonna show the trailer right now.
Now I want you all to write down a number from 1 to 100. 83, 41, and 17. Please show us your pads. 83, 41, and 17. I believe I got them.
Seen the show 6 times now. Each of you have had a chance to see him at least once. And, just as I predicted, neither of you can tell me how he does it.
Your word is locket.
That's right.
Your word is boy.
That's right. What I can tell you is that it is a boring routine at a two-bit theater.
That boring routine is packing out that two-bit theater every time they're putting on a show.
My name is Dexter, and I don't really do magic. I just read minds. Good night. Howard, how are you?
How about that Dexter down at the theater? Isn't he something?
Yes.
You know, I've been 3 times now. People are saying this man has supernatural powers.
There is something here like we have never seen before.
Pick out a card.
You think you can tell me what this card is without looking at it first?
Yeah, I do. And you don't want to play with me.
Nobody can read minds. He's doing something. He is going to make the association insignificant.
I agree. He's become a problem for us. But we need to be smart about how we solve that problem.
You see, the great Dexter can't do his act without his plans. Tell the truth!
This is very serious. They see you as a threat.
But how could they stop our show?
Trust me, they can. And they will.
Dexter, will you denounce the supernatural, yes or no?
Why don't you get to the truth of the matter, sir? The fact is, you and your associates and your years of experience can't figure out how this is done.
We gotta find out how he's doing this act, or find a way to stop him. And for me, preferably both.
All right, so we're back with Hamish Briggs here, the star of the new film, MindReader. There's a lot going on in this film, and we're not going to give away too much, but there's definitely a lot of faith that goes on in this film. There's even a part where it says, in order to believe, you have to humble yourself. Right. So as far as faith goes, how important is that to you personally?
Faith is hugely important to me, but in a non-denominational way. You know, I've tried on lots of different churches throughout my life, and I've come to this point where I just love reverence. And personally, I'm Christian, and I now go to a congregational church near where I live in Connecticut. But I've tried on Korean churches, Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic. I grew up Anglican, went to a Presbyterian school, and I just love reverence and faith, however that manifests itself. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, the reverence is definitely really key. Reverence, holiness, just the respect factor. And it's really interesting to see how the different denominations kind of express that and as you said, manifest that. So tell me about how you got the audition for MindReader and kind of what your initial thoughts were about the film.
Well, the audition was, it kind of came out of the blue, and Rich, the director, he'd sent through sides, which had about 6 pages. 4 of them was a monologue, and that's always an interesting challenge. But that's something that I really love. You know, I mentioned I love Shakespeare, and I love meaty text, and I loved something I can really sink my teeth into. So I had a lot of fun with it. I set up a stage and a microphone, and then I did the act. I did Dexter's act for the audition, and it was great fun. And then went back and forth a few times. I was able to read the script, and I loved the script. And just fortunately, we were originally meant to shoot 6 months before we did, and so when it was delayed, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe this is never going to actually happen. So I was really thrilled when it finally did.
Oh, really? So there was a 6-month delay?
Yeah, I think something to do with tax credits and the location. It changed locations from Ohio to Mississippi, which worked out. Well, Mississippi was great in the end. And
okay, so that's where you guys filmed the project?
Yeah, down in Laurel, Mississippi, right next to Hattiesburg.
Wow, okay, interesting. Had you been to that area before?
No. As an Australian coming to America, I've been here now 10 years, but I still feel like I'm a tourist because this country just has so much going on inside it. And I'm something of an anthropologist exploring these different demographics, and oh man, what a treat to be able to go to Hattiesburg and Laurel and meet the folks down there. They're just the Southern hospitality is a thing.
It definitely is a thing. I haven't traveled too much, but I've recently been to Nashville a lot. I have a cousin who lives there, and I love Tennessee. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't rule out like living there one day. It was just really nice. So I can imagine like filming there, and there's so many different location options and all that. So as far as like preparing for the role, like after you had gotten it, and it's interesting because Rich actually told us when we interviewed him last week that he had read through so many actors, but like it was just, they were just good, but he didn't want to settle for just good enough. And then he like stumbled upon you and he was like, this is the guy. Yeah. So once you actually got the news of, having the role of Dexter, what did your preparation process look like? How much time did that take?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. It brought up some things that I hadn't anticipated. So I'll approach a character and really just try to understand that character. I don't learn lines so much as learn the character and then kind of engineer a set of circumstances that make the lines I have to say inevitable. Anyway, the process of doing that with a Christ-like figure, and Dexter isn't Christ, so it took some of the responsibility out of it, but still, it forced me to think about Christ in ways that I never had before and try to internalize what some of his experience must have been like. Just something as prosaic as being a humble person who can do incredible things.
Yeah.
What must have that been like for Christ or for Dexter to have that kind of those warring powers. That's an odd word to use for it. We don't think of Christ as having powers, but I mean he did, and Dexter does, and coming to terms with those as a person, and every character I think should be a real person.
Right.
Was kind of peculiar for me as an actor, but humbling.
Interesting. So this role was challenging in a different way and also in a spiritual way.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like someone who has and had so much power, yet had to walk in like 100% like true, pure humility in a world where there's so much pride and ego, especially in the arts and entertainment industry. I'm sure that was interesting, and I think you played that really well. Again, we won't give away too much, but your countenance and the way you played the character, I definitely see how you incorporated the humility aspect, yet the confidence of the gifting that the character had. And so I'm just curious, what's your view on like spiritual or supernatural gifts?
I know that I don't know. And there's so much to this world and beyond that I don't think any human knows, which is where faith kind of comes into it. So on one moment I might think that I don't believe in supernatural or special gifts, things like that, and then something will happen or I'll hear an anecdote. And I like to think of myself as a fairly rational person.
Yeah.
But sometimes things are just kind of spooky, aren't they?
Yeah, it can feel like a coincidence, but then you have moments where you're like, it feels like a greater power's at work here or in a scenario, things like that. And obviously, kind of going back to like the Christian walk of faith, I used to think that, if you're a Christian, that everything's going to work out for you. You're not going to go through anything hard. You're not going to go through certain challenges. But it happens whether you're a Christian or not a Christian. But I believe personally that, if you have that Christian faith, it's just that extra foundation, that extra strength that we get from God to go through different things. And so as far as like challenges go, what kind of challenges have you experienced in your path, pursuing acting, film, directing, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. Oh gosh, good question. I'm often, as I think any actor, any person is, this is just such a human thing. Just the crisis of confidence comes up a lot, and it's tough, when you don't get the audition, when things don't fall the way you expected them to. And there have been times where I've thought, I nailed that, I got that job, and then you don't, and then it's easy to start wondering, was that me? Did they not like me?
Right.
Fortunately, I've also been on the other side of the camera, and I know that there are so many factors that go into any of these decisions. But that's probably in recent times the biggest challenge that I've had. I'm so lucky. I've got a beautiful family. I love where I live. I love what I do, and things are really good. So I feel, I don't know how to wrap that thought up.
Well, I think you have a really good balance to your life. I feel like when you're, because again, being on the other side of it, whether you're, doing acting or you're the one that's producing or directing the project and you're experiencing the casting process on a different way, you tend to see how it's not so much personal. I definitely have experienced that, in the film industry, auditioning for something and you're like, oh, I'd be so great for this. And then you don't get it. And then these feelings of rejection or insecurity and all these kind of things kind of creep in. But then being on the other side of it, producing a project and seeing there's people who have auditioned for projects that I've produced where it had nothing to do with their performance. Sometimes, obviously, if they don't have the skill or if they don't fit the role, it is what it is. But sometimes it comes down to scheduling or it comes down to, their height or I don't know. And they can't help that.
Well, but there is a challenge, actually. You know what the challenge that I have faced and still face is recognizing my good fortune. Sometimes it's really difficult to do that, because at times I feel like, I'd love to have been booked for a Marvel movie or something like that. And that would be great, but I'm so happy with what I'm doing, and the opportunities that I've been afforded have been incredible. And just to play Dexter has been what a privilege. And there are a lot of people who would, I don't want to say kill for that opportunity, but they'd bend over backwards for that opportunity, and I got it. So sometimes it's easy to take for granted the good fortune that you have, and that is a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. I think keeping the attitude, I don't know, it rhymes with the attitude of gratitude, focusing on what you do have versus what you don't have, or focusing on what roles you did get versus the ones you didn't, and just knowing that everything is a learning opportunity and just not letting that get you down. Because I feel like in arts entertainment, it's so easy, in life in general, to reach a place of burnout.
Right.
Have you ever experienced any kind of burnout?
Sure. Like I said, I love creating stories, and sometimes I'll be working on a script or multiple scripts at once, and you always have lots of irons in the fire, whether that's auditions and scripts and projects you're directing and producing, and then suddenly 3 or 4 of them will start to get hot at once, and you're kind of obliged to keep up the speed on it all. And I just love what I do, so I'm never going to say no when an opportunity comes my way. And then I find myself often just burning the candle at both ends. Again, I love it, but it can be taxing and tire you out.
Yeah, I feel like the older I get, the more I realize that if you don't love what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Unless there's, an external reason why you need to do that certain thing. Yeah. But that's kind of the place I've reached in my career. It's if I'm not passionate about it, if I don't love it, if I don't enjoy the people that I'm working with, there's other things I'd rather do. And so I totally understand that. As far as directing, in writing, what's your perspective when you're approaching a project in that way versus preparing to act in a project? Or do you act in a lot of the projects that you have produced or written?
I'll always try to give myself a small role, because it's fun. But I recognize that they're both full-time jobs, and there are marvelous actor-directors out there who will direct themselves in their own projects, but I think it can be a real trap to try and take that on when you're not experienced enough in both. And I don't think I'm there yet as a director to be able to confidently handle a full project and keep the arc of the story in place while playing a lead role in it. So a small role, yes, but no lead roles just yet. In terms of the approach to writing and directing, I don't know. Stories just occur to me sometimes. I'm a very visual director and writer, so one of my favorite two of my favorite, well, let's say my favorite director, I think, would be Edgar Wright. Favorite producer would be Matthew Vaughn, although he's also directed some of my favorite films. Both of these guys, as it happens, are English, and both of them have very visual styles. Edgar Wright, in particular, just has a marvelous way of telling stories visually through the camera and through editing, which I'll often try to learn from as I'm writing and directing my own projects. I don't think I've quite achieved it yet, because I think he's a master, but that's how I go about it.
Awesome. So just for fun, what are some of your favorite movies or actors even?
Yeah, so I just mentioned Matthew Vaughn directed Stardust, which is, I just think it's such a wonderful film. It's whimsical, and it's got action and some horror and romance, tons of romance, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. I love Gladiator by Ridley Scott. I think it proves that a film can be incredibly artistic and just eminently entertaining as well. And then one of my earliest and most favorite films is the 1938 Adventures of Robin Hood, starring Errol Flynn. And that is just a very, very complex film in terms of the scope of the story. It goes into more detail than any of the contemporary Robin Hood films about the racial strife between the Normans and the Saxons, the motivations for Robin doing what he does. I just think it's a really beautiful film.
Yeah. So what kind of genres do you kind of, I guess, veer toward?
I gravitate toward comedy, but I love not straight up comedy necessarily. So I love a film that weaves comedy into, whether it's action or whether it's even a drama that somehow weaves comedy. Because I think in life, or at least in my life, I try to weave a lot of comedy into things. And there's that gallows humor that when things are really bad, that's often when people get the funniest.
So true.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hardest moment, like a lot of comedians, you kind of see that they bring so much comedy and laughter to things that are, one, obviously true, but then also like usually painful experiences.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that definitely finding the silver lining through anything you're going through, or finding the laughter, is very key to continuing on.
That's the saying, you got to laugh or cry, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's so true. So on that note, I think we're going to show the trailer one more time for anyone who's not seen it yet.
Now I want you all to write down a number from 1 to 100. 83, 41, and 17. Please show us your pads. 83, 41, and 17. I believe I got them.
I've seen the show 6 times now. Each of you have had a chance to see him at least once. And, just as I predicted, neither of you can tell me how he does it.
Your word is locket.
That's right.
Your word is boy.
That's right. What I can tell you is that it is a boring routine at a 2-bit theater.
That boring routine is packing out that 2-bit theater every time they're putting on a show.
My name is Dexter, and I don't really do magic. I just read minds. Good night.
Howard, how are you?
How about that Dexter down at the theater? Isn't he something?
Yes.
I've been 3 times now. People are saying this man has supernatural powers.
There is something here like we have never seen before.
Pick out a card.
You think you can tell me what this card is without looking at it first?
Yeah, I do. And you don't want to play with me.
Nobody can read minds. He's doing something. He is going to make the association insignificant.
I agree. He's become a problem for us. But we need to be smart about how we solve that problem.
You see, the great Dexter can't do his act without his plans.
Tell the truth!
This is very serious. They see you as a threat.
But how could they stop our show?
Trust me, they can. And they will.
Dexter, will you denounce the supernatural, yes or no?
Why don't you get to the truth of the matter, sir? The fact is, you and your associates and your years of experience can't figure out how this is done.
how he's doing this act, or find a way to stop him. And for me, preferably both.
Thank you so much for watching our interview with Hamish Briggs, the lead actor in the new film, MindReader. For more information on that film or to see it in person, go to www.mindreadermovie.com. And also be sure to follow us on Instagram at CTN Vegas and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content just like this. See you next time on Access Las Vegas.
To get more information about this film or to call for free tickets, all you have to do is visit mindreadermovie.com.